Recorded April 24th, 2024. Wait for it.
24. You
Wait
got
for
it.
it. Wait for it.
Oh.
Good afternoon, Brody. Good afternoon, Rod.
Wow.
I was waiting with bated breath for you to say
I thought
that.
it was one of those
What's
Biden
bated
pauses.
breath like worms in your breath? Bait?
I don't actually know where that comes from, to be fair.
And
Now,
I don't think it's spelled that way either. I'm just being lowbrow there. I'm sure not. Or maybe it is bated breath. Like I'm baiting you.
It's baited, but it's BATED. It's a different term. So
holding one's breath in excitement or anxiety. I was holding my breath in anxiety that you could not finish the intro, Edward.
No. Today was just I've had to do real work lately. It's fine though. It's I did something that I felt good about today. I did once again a habitual overcommitter. And
I feel that.
And it keeps eating me up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get help here soon. Therapy. I'm gonna go somewhere for this thing that I had that I want to save everybody. I want to save the little ants walking outside. I want to help the bird that falls out the tree. Yeah,
oh
man.
My goodness.
Ants are my favorite insect, man. They get it. You know.
Wow.
So this Wednesday, and I don't know why I feel discombobulated. Like Wednesdays to do a show seems odd now because my mind is set for Mondays that we're really going to. But we were talking about the things for the show, and we were just doing some banter, and we were talking about rock groups. And I said, hey, we should do something around Gums and Roses as we get older, right? Instead of guns, be Gums and Roses. Be pretty good.
We could do a Vegas gig as Gums and Roses. See, I can even see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of single sign-on stuff today, so a lot of understanding what that pass-through authentication looks like, and landing URLs and OIDC and SDP and IDP, and how it differs from OAuth, and I can see even. Can you guys help me validate something? I have my opinion of this.
All right. Yeah.
Do you believe that the function of single sign-on is a security workload / function or evolution?
You mean rather than just being an annoyance or what?
No. This is not your question.
I think it achieves industry recognized security recommended practices for the identity pillar, if you're talking zero trust pillars.
Okay. And there's no wrong or right answer. I am of the opinion that it's not a security workload. I think it's not a security function.
Conditional access, I would say, is a security function.
Yeah.
But single sign-on is
essentially the same thing.
No, not really.
No, it's like a unified identity that you're using for everything.
But then you set up conditional access to ensure that it.
Yes. But even then, Brody, and you're the identity heavy on the team, I would beg to differ that it's not a uniform identity. You're not unifying the identity. You're taking the credentials that have been validated in one point and said, I will pass it through because you have satisfied whatever other mechanism that you had, and I trust the authentication origin of that identity that you started, and I'll pass it through for you. So it is a authentication identity lifecycle function to me, right? Meaning, I
like this.
You get more secure from having a single sign-on?
Yes.
Process-driven, yes, because you have fewer passwords to have to deal with, right? And you have the antibiotic, initiative, meaning that the more you use a password, the more likely it is to be exposed. Like the more you use an antibiotic, the less effective it is. So it's all the reverse thing. We talked about this like a couple of years ago on the show, but there's no right or wrong. Some people say, yeah, it is a security mechanism. I'm reducing the overhead of maintaining passwords and all this other stuff. But when I was helping a customer put this in, at the very end of it, it says, you should now integrate this with Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps to prevent your single sign-on authentication process from being hijacked. and session control stuff. I'm like, really? I won't say what product I helped get it up with because
Is this literally just a reason to talk about Defender for Cloud Apps?
Defender for Cloud App rocks, man. That's fine. MCAS all day. I think I'm gonna get me a tattoo. MCAS, baby. Elwood is right about the game. That's right, Victor. Don't hate the game, hate the player. No, I'm just kidding. Man, that's it. Good day. I had to put some clothes on because I had to do this. Hey, big shout out to Ray at Microsoft, Ray Wolford. Been on the show when we had Women in Cyber Month. She's the reason I had to take a shower and put a clean shirt on today because
Mud wrestling?
Alligator wrestling today, actually. Because today I had to once again present. I got to put my mind off Teams. Share screen. 2 monitors. Which one do I want to share? Window that. So on the Defender Expert connection today, let me go to slideshow. You'll get it. From beginning, I got to present on the Defender Expert Customer Connection Program, and today it was pretty good. People liked it. You know, I gave a different spin about it. You know, you can see that I promoted the show. That was much more robust, but I took out the personal stuff so we could share it to the audience. Very good audience of the customers that are consuming Defender Experts and Defender Experts Hunting and XDR. And talked about a few things here, how I learn, triage learning. You know, I read something, it's fundamental. I do what I read, I lab it up as possible in a way that I maintain or, you know, and make what I've labbed up or read sticky. I do it by peer sharing, either the podcast, the event, things that I read, but I told them that that list is pretty dynamic. What I read today is not what I read tomorrow. And the GitHub detection repos. Talked about KJO on the here. I got Rod on here and I got Morton. Things that I like seeing what other people are doing that keeps me sharp. And the rest of what I was talking about is hunters gonna hunt, looking for those that live off the land, i.e. PowerShell and WMI, how to detect those, and basically like, hey, you got to help your hunters out. You got to give them some logs. You got to give them something to build long tail and deal detection lines and evidence of execution. You can't just allow them to hunt because, you know, more and more of these actors have known how to evade or not even put these kits down. Why would I put Cobalt Strike on your machine? Why would I put Mimikatz? Why would I put, you know, C2 Silver, which is an open source version of Cobalt Strike? Because you're looking for that. You're rarely looking at what I'm doing with PowerShell and WMI or WMI consumers. And then what logs you need to get. So this is blowing me up because I got to pin on the knowledge for all that effort I put into the forensic exam, and it came right back. So now I'm going to do another 2-part. I'm going to do malware analysis, and I'm going to do injection detection. Injection. What's your detection? Right in PowerShell and KKL query.
Is that the first? Is that our first Gum and Roses hit?
I couldn't carry a note with 4 hands. Here you go.
Not only are you
Gums and Roses and the
on fire from a spillover knowledge standpoint of offensive security, which you're clearly using to hydrate your professional career and advertise on this podcast, but you're also coming up with an excellent jingle.
Little did our guests know that they had to come on with a jingle tonight, so
they know. So yeah, you got time. That's all I did. So I don't want to hijack this. Brody, what did you break this week?
You're on fire, man. You got me going today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
How can you top that? How can you top
I know.
that?
It's like, I just do my job now. Tomorrow, I've been tasked with this customer I'm working with to develop a strategy and a framework for, excuse me, modernizing their entire information protection and data governance aspect of their company, right? Everything. And I've been working on that for a few weeks now, talking with like key people and gathering intel and taking lots of notes. And tomorrow is the presentation where we're going to be like, okay, here's what we recommend. Here's what we want you to do. Are you good? Then let's do it. And it's been like a nice build up, a big build up to this moment, right? And so I got the presentation done earlier than expected today. I totally thought I would be multitasking on this call doing the presentation, but no, I finished early, got to go for a larger walk. And Allie, who you both know, I don't know if you remember, but she joined me while I was in Redmond.
Yes.
She joined.
Yeah,
she's going to work with me on this because I'll be taking paternity leave in like a month from now, and so I'm basically like getting everything going, and we're working together, and then she's going to like hold down the fort while I'm gone, and then when I get back, if there's still a customer of ours, then we're doing a good job. So I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of really good opportunity here in this area. And it's cool. It's cool. I've had a lot of interesting twists and turns with customers and engagements lately, where there's like there's a lot of thinking on your feet and a lot of like every day is a different adventure. Actually sit down and plan and build something and build it up to the point where we're ready. And now we want to like execute this multi-month engagement with them. And so I'm looking forward to getting tomorrow done and hopefully getting buy-in to get going. So that's kind of my main thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, since you will be off for leave, maybe your colleague would like to be the new Brody until you get back.
I could ask
That would
her.
be awesome.
She's on the East Coast, so I'll see. If
I'm on
she's
the East
around.
Coast, so yeah.
I know you're on the East Coast. Yeah, but
yes,
I'll find out if that works for her.
Well, I'm considered East Coast because of the time zone, but I'm
not. Oh, okay. Yeah, where you are, it's not the East Coast. It's probably snowing.
It's 53 today.
53 is not bad.
There's my wife calling.
You're in trouble.
No, I have a story to tell about my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. So I have a story. I have a couple things I want to share. Then I have a story before we get to our guest, but I think you'll absolutely appreciate this story. Yeah. First off, some things that I've been working on. I've been so embroiled in just things lately. So here's all the Copilot for security plugins that I've created over the course of the past few days, which you can grab these all on my GitHub Copilot. In my GitHub, the Copilot for security GitHub repository. But I have another one that I've been working on, a couple other ones that should be interesting. Sridhar and I are working on one in particular I think would be of interest as well. But there are a lot of these. So tell if somebody has updated the SCUs, if you scaled up or scaled down. Looking for IP addresses in the geo location ranges, right? Instead of instead of using some third-party threat intelligence, just figure out where that IP address comes from. Suspicious incidents, that's not that cool, but Sentinel table sizes and costs, right? So you can say, hey, instead of going to a workbook in Sentinel, just go to Copilot for security and say, hey, what's my largest table? How much is it costing me? And it will give you that info. If you want to know if any of your tables are not ingesting data, just ask Copilot for security. Hey, are any of my Sentinel tables have they stopped ingesting data for whatever reason? So I can go check them out. And then, of course, the trusted users list. But I have a few other ones that are on their way. Let me share something else. And then I'll tell my cute little story. Totally. I talked about this last week.
Oh,
this Copilot for security prompting, and there you go, Edward. I actually changed the name of it to developing better prompts. So I delivered this to also the CCP last week. I keep telling them they need to change that name. It sounds like the Chinese Communist Party, but the CCP. And this is literally taking on a life of its own. It's like become the new must-learn KQL thing. A lot of people are using this. A lot of people are interested in it. Plus, our good buddy who suggested our guest today, Mr. James Key, is now utilizing this to create something for partners to deliver to their customers. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So that was awesome. One other thing about that. I talked to Heike this week, and it's going to become part of the Ninja series. So I'm recording a Ninja video next week for the prompting stuff.
Yes, it's funny. I have to record snackables for the CCP stuff. They actually commissioned our podcast to do it. They were like, "You guys do a better job. Can you guys do the work for us?"
Heike mentioned that when we were talking about this ninja stuff. She said, I watched your guys learn lives. It was literally just your show. I said, yeah, it was. We brought our show to learn live, and everybody loved it. So we may be doing that again. We'll see.
Yeah, I want to do that with you guys in the future. Like, I know I got baby time coming up here, but I think after I get back, things are gonna like calm down a little bit. It's just been crazy this last couple months. I'd love to do a learn live with both of you. I'd love to get do something new like that. So keep me in mind.
Yeah, well, for sure. I will solicit them again. I say, hey, we're ready for another, and they'll just they'll hand us something good. So, and I'll make sure it's good.
So I'm gonna refine that CCP thing that I had. It's sort of sloppy, but I'm gonna clean it up a little bit.
Well, and that's the thing. It's great to deliver it internally like that to these kind of EAP, CCP type customers because they're used to beta stuff anyway, right? You're like, hey, this is beta. I need your feedback so we can improve this before we make it available to anyone else. So
yeah, the customer sit there with beta breath.
Beta breath.
That's too good. We're on fire today. Wow.
Too good. Hey, man. So let me go back to this weekend. On Sunday, myself, my wife, and two of my kids, we're doing some house hunting. We've been doing this for, about this for past 6 months or so, looking for a new house. We went to go tour another house. On the way back home on this 4-lane interstate, there's these two geese sitting in the middle of the road. And we went around them, but it was like maybe the female had laid the eggs in the wrong spot. Geese aren't that smart anyway. And they were just guarding those eggs in the middle of the road. So I made the joke after we passed by the geese. I said, somebody just needs to run those over. We have a deal. We're in charge. We need to anyway. It was a joke. It was a joke. Everybody laughed. Wow. I wasn't serious about
Everybody laughed, eh?
Yeah, they did. Because they're like, oh, it's just dead. And of course they rolled their eyes. Last night, my wife calls me. She's on her way home from Pilates. It's getting more toward dusk. She calls and says, honey, a goose just hit my car. She was driving down that same highway. Those same geese were in the same place. And I guess they nailed, and it destroyed our car. I mean, hit the grill, busted the radiator. It's at the shop today for insurance purposes. I have the pictures. Nobody wants to see them, but there's blood and guts and feathers just literally all over the place.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, this show just turned to some type of true crimes, right? So the geese,
that's what my wife has been dealing with all day today. The insurance stuff, I feel really bad for. It was a little traumatizing, and of course, the first thing I said when she came in, I said, "Boy, your goose is cooked."
Wow, it is dad joke episode here today.
Yeah, it is.
Dad joke.
But geese are vicious, man. And I was stationed on a base where it was like a nature reserve, and you won't know that they have goslings anywhere around, and one of them will nail you, and they'll
they're mean.
And they're they're not little chickens, man. They get to hit you with their wings, right?
Canadian geese. We send them down for migration to pick on Americans.
To pick on Americans. Yeah, they're tasty around November when they come in.
It's the Canadian Army. The Canadian Army.
It is the Canadian Army and
the Canadian Army.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But hey, we do have a guest as we continue the theme of Partner Month. This partner was recommended by the program manager at Microsoft, James Key. Big shout out to you, James. But I have a good relationship with this particular partner. We have history. We'll let that history sort of maturate as we and reveal this up as we get going. But this gentleman that resides at Forsyte IT, I do not know personally. I did reach out to them and we got back. But sir, can you introduce yourself, the company you work for, and tell us everything about Forsyte IT?
Sure, I'll do my best. I'll start with the company and then go into my role right afterwards. So Forsyte is a Microsoft partner. We've been around for about a decade, founded by a Microsoft alum, Chris Irwin, and actually founded by Chuck McBride, who was a longtime CTO, CIO in the Richmond, Virginia area. He brought on Chris Irwin, who is a partner as well, came from Microsoft, and we've always really been security, compliance, and identity focused. That being said, we've really leaned further into that over the last couple of years. So we launched what is really our flagship offering called Guardian 365 about 3 years ago. And that is a 24/7 managed security service I think some of the unique things about our service are that we are not just a monitoring and remediation service. We also provide all of the assessment and deployment work that goes into fully leveraging your Microsoft security licensing, whether that's A3, A5, E3, E5, G3, G5. All those services and the maintenance of that stack are included as part of our service. And then we have a full 24/7 SOC that operates and provides that kind of support to our customers. Over the years, we've really sort of honed in on security. We used to do a lot of cloud migration work, a lot of AVD, a lot of Active Directory work, all those things. And we still do a little bit of each of those things, but really our primary focus today is Guardian 365 managed security services through and through. And we have a lot of great customers in EDU, SLG, nonprofit, commercial, but really our primary focus is the education market. And then my role here is officially Chief Services Officer. Really, in reality, I manage the technical team, and that is our SOC analysts, SOC engineers, PMs, and a couple other technical folks that kind of help us keep those operations going smoothly.
Very good. Hello, Chris. Hope you're watching the show. We're friends.
I hope he is too. I think he might be traveling, but I'm sure he'll listen to it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris is a very good dude. I met him when I was on the partner side, and we worked together on some things, man. And I'm so happy that Forsyte was his brainchild and got going with it, man. And I was sort of there at the very inception of it. Unfortunately, I couldn't hang around. And then by virtue of, I think I introduced Chris to Chuck. And
I think you did,
for those who don't know, Chris Irwin, former Microsoft guy, is one of the heaviest, identity persons out there, especially around film and MIM. And we had a film project he was working on. I was like, I know a dude. Plus, Chris is the biggest buff IT guy you want to know, man. He's powerlifting at the time, right? And
he still does quite a bit of that.
He does, yeah.
Really not the kind of guy you want to get into a confrontation with.
Absolutely, you do not want to. You want to walk away and take the high road. You want to do that if you mess with Chris. Chris is a really good dude, man. So it's been a while since I talked to them. That's shame on me. They've been around.
Shame on
you. So you guys are in the foray of providing outstanding Microsoft security services. I've watched you guys come through the whole thing. I know you're a PDM over at Microsoft. They say you guys do good work. It didn't surprise me that when I saw the early adopters or early participants for partners on the Copilot for security, you're not as large as some of the other partners, but it ain't the size of the dog.
Yeah, right? We're working on that too. We're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah. It's slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly.
And Chuck can he can relate to that. He's a marathoner. Well, him and I used to run marathons together, but not so much anymore. I think maybe a half marathon. As well. Yep. Oh, you are too.
Yeah,
oh, great.
Yep, actually, that's how Chuck and I met. Actually, was back in 2014. I started running with his group in Richmond.
Okay, yeah. Some of my guys with my foundation run with him. Chuck, you still can't beat me. Put it out there. Just go ahead and put it. You still can't beat me. Yeah. So the theme of this is partner month, but the sub theme and the interest is and the focus is this thing that everybody keeps talking about, which is this Copilot for security. So one thing I can tell you about Chris, he's not a time waster. If it's something there and he puts his time to it, it must have value, it must have potential. So tell me how you guys are approaching this and why did you put yourself or apply and get accepted to the early partner adoption of this? Yeah.
I think from our standpoint, there's a couple things. There's what we see the role for Copilot for security being in our operations, and then how we see it playing into our customers' operations as well. I think I listened to the Critical Start episode last week, and I think there's some serious overlap between their approach and ours. What I would say is right now we're really focusing on readiness, and there's kind of two parts to that. One is for us internally, want to make sure that when Copilot for security becomes a critical part of our SOC operation, we want to make sure with resources like what Rod's putting out that we have an efficient way to use Copilot for security, right? The better your prompts are, the better you're organizing how you're using Copilot for security, the better your analysts are doing is using it at the right times, the more you're really going to get out of it. And for us, we have a team of really great analysts, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We have several geographic locations, and that's certainly the number one asset in our SOC. But after that, the next best asset is time. And so if we can save analysts seconds on every security event, or even just on being able to answer questions about posture management or being able to remediate certain events more quickly as a result of using Copilot. That's really where, for us, the biggest value add is gaining time back for our analysts, making their jobs easier, making their jobs more fun, and then also making just them more effective, more efficient, so that we, at the end of the day, drive health for the business itself. And then on the customer side of things, we're doing a lot around getting some offerings ready for Copilot readiness. And so those are all the security controls, compliance controls that really need to be in place before you start turning on AI, generative AI tools that are going to be having access to all that data. Those potential leakages, potential misuse or abuse of those tools become all the more threatening. And so we're really focusing on making sure that before we do anything with our customers, we have all of that in place and have them understanding what the potential risks are and how to mitigate those risks before turning anything on. And then I think, the last thing here, I think the underlying question is, how are we going to include it in our service offering? And I think that's where there's still a lot to be determined. I know we talked about it last month, the SU model and the variability that customers have to kind of stomach if they're going to use Copilot for security and the services that we're offering. We're still trying to figure out how to contend with that. And I think we're also looking to Microsoft to sort of help us along that road and figure out if there's going to be a way to, pool SCUs that we can pull from first before we go to the customer subscription, or what the other options might be. That's kind of where we're at right now with the overall offering and the implementation of it.
Yeah, that is something that, you are in line to every other partner that has come on before you in regards to the service offering to the customer is yet to be defined. We know that there is going to be one, but it's still fledgling. The advisory seems to be the thing that every partner says. We want to advise you on what we know and what we can project in the future about where it's going. But ultimately, you still, I won't say at the mercy, but you're in a wait and see mode, because the innovator is Microsoft, and you go as they go a little bit, right?
Yep.
And you make mistakes.
Yep. And I think, some of this uncertainty around the variability of the pricing, really brings back memories of when Sentinel came around first. That being said, the variability with Sentinel is, in most cases, there are logic app runs, there are things that you can do that cost ingestion money. But really the variability in that cost is mostly driven by how many events the customer is generating. Whereas in this case, that variability is being driven by how much our staff, our SOC analysts, are going to be using Copilot, what kind of queries they're going to be running. And so it's a little bit harder in the conversations that we've had for customers to understand, what am I actually signing off on? How much is this really going to cost me? And how's that going to change over the course of a 2, 3, 4, 5-year contract?
Yeah, I as we look at careers and that are created and those that advance by this, obviously in the Copilot realm, if you take a very specific view of you're in bed with a vendor, which is Microsoft, creator of it, of a sort. I would think that the people that you pull from are people that are really good at writing very concise hunting queries and or forensic people, because you got to get better at how you ask things, and you got to really be, is this question relevant? Why would I even prompt this if it's not going to bring me something back? I don't want an Easter egg. If I got enough data from the platform, whether it's the home, if it's Guardian 365 and or just the XDR that's inherent to the platform, it's already told me a subset of information. We have to get better at taking what is there, boiling it down, and then using that to make a better prompt, right? Don't ask something that's already told you. That's just my opinion.
I think a piece of that, and I think what we tend to forget, and I think the way a lot of these plugins, maybe even the AI stack in some cases, are being developed, it's still being developed with a search mentality, search engine mentality, where you want to stick in 3 or 4 words and expect the best and hope for the best. Generative AI gives language back to us. We actually can ask real questions with real context, and then the better we are at going back to like those in-person conversations, the better those responses will be, and the better the results. We won't have to spend as much time. So that one prompt will probably, or it should, based on the promise, get us exactly what we want the first time.
Yep, and oftentimes the better you write the prompt, the less it's going to cost too, because you're not having the model go through and look at every single device in your organization first.
Yeah, every harebrained idea I have around we're still talking prompts and how to do that, but that is just the top layer to try to resolve something on the backside that has to be addressed, which is the consumption of the SCU, right? So the better prompts prevents the burn of this particular thing, but if the backside gets, I won't say resolved, because I don't believe that the pricing model is a problem. There's nothing wrong with the pricing model. The pricing model is that you have nothing to compare it to, so don't say it's wrong. It is absolutely right for what it's doing, right? But the approach that those who consume Sentinel may help them because it went from reducing logs to reduce costs to rationalizing the logs to say what is really needed. What do I need to do my job? So when you take that approach, I believe, and I'm not as heavy into the Copilot as Rod, I soon will be by necessity. You'll learn it, and then I'm doing some auxiliary things that are going to probably make me a better prompter, right? And seeing that stuff. But I'm really not looking at that as much as what I want to put my technical chops in. I want to write great plugins, right? I really want to be able to do that and see that how that works. So let's ask the question. To be fair, we asked the other partners. Rob has been on your website. Have you guys put anything about Copilot for security on your website as an offering yet?
Not as of yet, and I think my answer to why is pretty much identical to what Critical Start told you, which is until we have an exact idea of what that's going to look like and can stand behind a message to our customers, we're sort of playing the readiness game, right? We are having conversations with customers about it. We're trying to get them ready for what we know is going to come, but until we know what form factor that Security Copilot flavor is going to come in, we're kind of keeping that more on the conversational side.
Yeah, I think some customers I talked to about it have some ideas that are really great if you're in the engineering and innovation and creation aspect of it. They were looking at Copilot as a forensics tool. Like something bad has happened, let's go back, but you can't. There's no historical data because you didn't turn it on. And so if you don't have it, then you gotta give it a base, which is sort of around the presentation I gave today. Hunters can hunt, but gatherers still got to gather. You got to give me something, give me some footprints, give me some scat, give me some fur samples, something, right? That say to identify what this creature is that I'm hunting.
Yep, pick up the trail. Yeah.
You got to pick up the trail. I'll ask this question that I asked Critical Start. No, don't want to take your shine away. This is about Forsyte. While you're doing all this, how are you still innovating with your other products? Because they're really good. You guys are really good in education space, right? You're really trusted there.
Yep, that is where the majority of our customers are. Yeah, like I said, we do have some really good relationships in SLG, government, nonprofit, commercial, but really our shining star is the education industry for sure.
Yeah, and your names come up every time I talk to education.
That's good.
Chris Urton comes to Atlanta. You guys have customers here in Atlanta, big time. And his name pops up.
Some of our biggest customers are right down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of innovation in our security services, really the analyst is king. And so our goal here is always to, outside of making sure that our deployment services that we use to get customers onboarded to our SOC, we got to make sure that we are staying up to date on all the cutting edge things in Microsoft Defender XDR. So every time a new feature is released, every time, that checkbox appears all of a sudden in Defender for Endpoint, we're keeping up on that and making sure that we're deploying those new features for our customers. But from a SOC perspective, really the analyst is king. And so we're always looking for ways to empower our analysts with more knowledge at their fingertips. And so security or Copilot for security is a big part of that, but also looking at things like correlating events across our own customer base and trying to understand where we can use our own telemetry to try and reduce the time between when an event comes in and when we have a way to know, or we have a identified threat profile that we can go and protect against in all our customers. So things like that, looking at threat intelligence providers, making sure that our monitoring interface that our analysts use is bringing in all the right information. And again, going back to that, time being the most valuable asset, how do we prevent the analyst from having to jump to anywhere else but their primary monitoring screen? That's really the goal, is to make sure they can do everything they need to do in tier 1 especially, all from one place, and then not have to do anything else except for either close the event, escalate it to tier 2, or move to the next event. And so really most of our energy in terms of innovation on the technology stack goes to solving that pretty fundamental problem in the SOC.
Yeah. To our listeners, our consumers, and customers, really, really, really take to what he's saying. The analyst is king. That experience cannot be supplanted by a series of index large language models. It has no conscience. It just still wants to please you. If you say 2 plus 2 is 22, you say it enough times, it's going to come back and say 22 because it wants to please you, right? You're building a language model, right? You have to give it context to be able to do it. So as you go along that route, I mentioned that you guys are a heavy hitter in education. What do you believe the adoption of Copilot for Security is going to look like? Because the customer has to adopt it. You can't adopt it. They have to adopt it. So what do you believe that the consumption of that, consider some of the constraints in education, and some of them being sometimes true and not true, is skill set that they can bring in and money?
I think it's a tough question to answer today, but I think it's going to take time. And I think, generally speaking, because of the constraints that you alluded to, Ed, that education tends to adopt these kinds of products a little bit later, and not because they're running behind, but just because it takes a little while to figure out how to make the economics work in education, right? It's budgets are constrained, staff is constrained, so it takes a little bit longer for that curve to reach the education market. That being said, going back to what I said earlier about security for Copilot, I always get that wrong. Copilot for security, being it is hard. It always trips me up. So going back to the fact that Copilot for security really is, from our standpoint, a way to make our analysts more efficient. That means that as we entrench that model more into our operations, we can find ways to essentially provide our services more efficiently to our customers. And with that in mind, there's some synergy there between the cost of our services and the cost that we're saving by using Copilot for security more efficiently with our analysts. And I think that's really where the magic intersection of those two things is going to be in education, is we can help them save money by making our own analysts more efficient and able to process more events and handle more customers during their shifts.
Yeah. I will tell you, I talked to, so Microsoft has this national office thing for EDU. I don't know if you know about this or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I was on there last week and we talked, I did a half-hour demo of Copilot for Security and they were absolutely interested. Of course, we didn't go down the whole what's an SCU and how much that costs route, but still, I think the interest is there. So are your customers even asking about that, I guess, is the question.
They are asking. And I think the question, going back to what we've been talking about this whole time is really how do we control, cap, and monitor what that usage is going to look like, knowing that the users of the product are not going to be typically the customer staff, they're going to be our staff. And so that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, I think that's sort of the current state of affairs.
I think that your last comment and or answer is unique to the way you just said it. You're going to be the consumer in proxy for your customer because of the vertical you're in, which is EDU, and they really trust. When you get an EDU customer, they trust you. You are the expert. We didn't bring you in because we're better than you. We brought you in. The other place that you guys are relatively prominent is in agency, SLG, government, stuff like that. That's all the same type of conditions you have to work with, right?
Yep, there's a lot of similarities there. Yeah,
similarities in that, but Microsoft, and there are people, if way smaller than the four of us are here at Microsoft, who's thought down the road 5-6 years. Frank, who's the co-founder of this podcast, big shout out to you, Frank, said something to me a while ago, and he said, "Why do you think Slack and why do you think these things still exist?" And he said, "Because they got the mind share first. You get the mind share, then you get the market share." I was Microsoft. Agencies, why don't I say agencies? Let's just say education. They're used to getting a discount. They have discounted SKUs to be able to this. This would be a great time to discount this expensive thing and take the loss, because think what you're doing. You're helping a greatly underrepresented in security, industry, and you're building your advocates and those who's work there and maybe get on campus and teach these folks about these things. That's how Google got so prominent in these places with startups. They would give it to them, and the only thing they know is GCP now. So I would discount this heavily, and I know it's a cost that somebody's gonna have to eat it, but help out the EDU, right? Let them adopt it, because think how much telemetry you can get from all that craziness that goes on in that environment. Students are the worst hackers. They're always into something, right? And I've been there and I look at that stuff
we've
like, oh my
we've
God.
had some interesting events in the Slack perpetrated by students over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I used to see.
Yeah.
So
I bet.
Yeah.
are you the So how does Chris address this? He's the CTO.
He is the CTO.
He has a big
Yeah.
brain. I don't know how he thinks like he used to think, but if he brought this on, does he help you shape the vision and so that you can execute this? Because if you're in charge of all the analysts, I suspect that part of your duties is you got to train these guys. You got to train
Correct.
your
Yep.
staff. I won't say guys. You got to train your staff. How
Yep.
do you use this to make sure they stay relevant in their skills?
Yep. So we have a pretty robust training program that's carried out by, across the whole SOC with a lot of inter training. As far as Chris's role, Chris is really our innovation guy. I mean, he's got, like you said, the big brain. He's always looking at what's coming out, Microsoft or otherwise, security in general, and trying to figure out how we can use. We just started using this platform called MISP to try and correlate events and get some really broad data sets together for where we're seeing activity in our customer environments. And so he's always doing things like that. And then really where we work together is to take the great ideas that he comes up with, operationalize them, and then implement them through SOC training and get that pushed out to all of our analysts. One more thing I wanted to mention that you brought up a second ago, which is the mind share concept in education, especially. That's a big thing that we adhere to as well. So we actually offer a lot of free and or discounted programs for our education customers, with the idea being that we can show our value. We call we have a concept called the POC, the proof of concept. So we'll basically offer essentially 3 months of either very low cost or no cost security managed services to a customer, just to show them, here's what life is like when you have a holistic partner looking at your entire security stack, monitoring you 24/7. See how much easier your life is now. See how much more time you have for your other important IT work. And then really that business case that we can make for a full annual or 3-year contract after that becomes a whole lot more easy to make and a whole lot more rooted in actual tangible results that they can stand on. And that's really helped us go again from that mind share to market share transition in education.
I love that.
Yeah, if you can get the mind share, I say that all the time. You don't have to be best. Another way you can say that is you don't have to be the best. You have to be first.
Yep. Yeah.
You can only be one or the other. You can only be one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. Most of the time. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and I mean, I think in education especially, I mean, you look at even 2 years ago, I don't have data on this, but if you were to take a survey of K-12 and higher ed institutions of the country and say, how many of you have 24/7 eyes on glass SOC monitoring? I mean, the answer would have been, I would venture to guess, 0 to 10% probably 2 years ago. And now it's, I mean, looking at our market share alone, it's significant. And so in that same way, I think that the cost of Copilot for security right now might be prohibitive for some educational organizations. That tends to shift as the need becomes clearer and clearer, as security moves more and more and more. It really continues to be at the forefront of everybody's mind in IT. I think that perception will also start to shift over time.
Yeah, and to those entities that may be listening that either have customers in the EDU, higher learning, and or agency, don't think this is a bad thing. You're letting somebody else go flesh this out before you got to consume this, right? Let them take the headaches, let them take the burn, and then you come back and go. And it also allows you to watch who is going to be a prominent player that you can bring in, because everybody claims they know AI right now. Shout out to anybody who wants anybody from the Microsoft Security MSI Show to come in. We're AI advisors. We'll come speak at your event. Let us know. Shameless plug. We can put it on. But you're a runner. Sometimes you know that the person in front, may not know the person that's in front of you is better than you. He may be sandbagging. So you just run. You get to learn about this person a little bit, and then you know when to make your move in the last mile or two. I don't know. Rod is an outstanding runner himself. He's a distant runner himself. So you just let the forerunners go out, and you come in and you see, and then you vet out the BSers. You look at those who can bring real value in advisoryship. You have a limited amount of time and dollar
on the side of the road.
Yes, you don't run down the street and run over a goose, and
Hey, if you can outrun a goose, you're pretty good. So
yeah, pretty good. So with Forsyte, let's get away from the Copilot piece for a minute here.
Sure.
How do you measure success? Is it the growth of the company, because you guys are doing it very steadily mindset, or how do you foresee, hey, we know we are getting better because of this?
That's a good question. I think there are a few answers to that question. I think number one, no point sugarcoating it. We're a business, right? So at the end of the day, we gotta look at our financial performance and make sure that we're staying healthy there. But that aside, I think that's kind of the given. That aside, I really look at retention. So we have very strong retention
Bingo.
rates in our SOC and in our engineering teams, and that just means that we're cultivating really talented, really smart people. And at the end of the day, in security, that's what you need, right? You need talented staff. There's a huge cybersecurity skills shortage. We all know about that. And so if you can find a way to avoid falling into that hiring, being behind in your hiring and not having the right skill sets in the right place, that's certainly a big benefit to your company and making sure that you have some staying power. And then keeping your customers happy, right? At the end of the day, if customers don't want to renew our services, we're not going to do very well. And so we got to make sure that at the end of a 3-year or 5-year contract, we've made a good enough impression, provided enough value, and given them the experience that makes them want to come back and sign that contract again and again and again. And so that's those are the things we track: employee satisfaction and retention, customer satisfaction, and renewal rates. And then of course the underlying performance of the company as a whole is obviously critical to making sure that we're heading in a good spot into next year and the year after and the year after that.
Yeah, Microsoft's one of those unique company. Not unique. Well, the success of the companies is so heavily tied to the partners, because even if a company is big enough to have direct, renewal conversations with a customer, you still need your partners to re-up, right? Because if a partner loses a deal, Microsoft loses a deal. If the partner loses because they're they're bumping the Microsoft security product, when they lose, that oftentimes it's not the partner that loses to another partner who takes over their services. They go to another product, right? And so that is something that I think that Microsoft really has to keep their eye on, because we tend to show up when it's time to renew, right? And that's not a good thing. I need to know that. I'll say it. Some customers explained to me that other vendors come to and they do all the bells and whistles. They do this, they do this. They the old school before the pandemic. They wine and dine you. They get the business. They build a trust relationship. Say, hey, I want to meet your parents. How you doing? What's our future? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft calls you 2:00 in the morning. You up?
Wow.
That is a great analogy. Yeah.
And that's unfair sometimes, because
like a booty call.
I don't
You got to
need
pay
any,
them.
Yeah. But Microsoft's getting better at it, right? They realize, hey, the MSSP, I don't say partner anymore. I mean provider anymore. If someone comes to me and says, oh, you should consider as your managed security solution provider, I don't need you. I need you to say, we're going to come in as your MSS partner.
Yeah.
Because when I go down in flames, you need to go down in flames with me, right? Because you're going to get hacked. Sooner or later, Steel Team 6 is going to be there.
Yep. We say it all the time, and we really want our customers to think of us as an extension of their team. We're not some ancillary provider sitting out on the outside just being there in case something happens. We are for metaphorically, we're sitting right next to them at the next desk over, and we're trying to make sure that they are staying secure and keeping their environment up to speed with the cutting edge of security. And that's kind of that's where we hang our hat. That's the message that we want to send.
Sharing a sandwich instead of raiding the fridge. Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
Another great metaphor.
Absolutely, right there. I wish all the success for you guys. You guys are doing well in the places that I do see you guys. Or if someone asks, I sort of know where your sweet spot is, and I can say, hey, you have to consider these guys, right? And that'd be a good thing to do.
Always appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. With that, with the Guardian 365 solution that you have, and now that you have the certain things that are being released, like the unified one SOC experience inside the portal, do you guys adjust your offering to sit on top of that overlay a little bit better? How do you go with these innovations that Microsoft makes? Are you able to pivot fairly quickly and say, oh my God, they make my job so much better by doing this. Now we can do this. Is that a case for you?
I think I'd always wish we'd be able to pivot faster, but I think in the grand scheme of things, we have an ability to pivot pretty quickly. We have our SOC sort of broken down into a couple different divisions or arms, so to speak. So we have kind of a testing ground that we use with a smaller set of customers to be able to see how some of these new innovations work. So there's the multi-tenant portal that Microsoft's released recently. There's the unified SOC experience that you just alluded to. And then we've experimented with some internally built tools and some third-party providers, really to understand what our options are for going back to my analyst as king comment earlier, giving those analysts the best possible experience and the most efficient possible experience to perform their day-to-day duties. And so, we really do try, and every time Microsoft releases the new SOC optimization tool, we try and make sure that we do our due diligence and then put it into practice if it applies to our use cases.
Yeah, I'll give you some free consulting here because I rarely see it because everybody it's not a measurable value, but I think everything that can be measured doesn't have value, and everything that can't be measured doesn't mean it doesn't. Customer training and enablement. We tend to sell to the customer, and if you let them, the customer will go, well, you handle it. You're the expert. I believe that you should have these ongoing trainings beyond webinars. Find the people and say, hey, let us train you. Don't assume that what we're doing is voodoo magic. And I see fewer and fewer partners doing it. It used to be partners who would always have a seminar and give these things and say, hey, let's talk about this product. Let's go in depth. Now they leave it almost solely up to the vendor. And that's killing me. If I had hair, I'd pull it out. And like that is a untapped thing that I see a lot of partners not doing. And I know cost, pandemic, travel, remote seems to be the thing, but there's a feel-good feeling. Think about it. Look at the things outside of what you are offering. Look at how Microsoft Ignite, Microsoft Inspire, Microsoft Build, all these things are coming back. People love being in front of people. They love sitting in the chair. They love the badge. Hey, I went to an event. I love going to these things, right? I think that partners should be more ingrained into the enablement and skilling up of their customer. You're not going to lose the customer, I promise you. They're going to go, man, Forsyte's part of the team. They brought us into a local office, and they brought us a bunch of sandwiches and coffee and did all these things, and they showed us what's behind the black box. And that means that they stand behind their service, not the product.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's an important thing that as Microsoft that we need to do for our partners, because we need to enable our partners to be the experts. We need to step out of the way at just the right moment. So now the customer goes, well, these are the experts that I call, right? Instead of Microsoft, because, I get asked all the time, why Windows blue screens? I don't know.
Because it doesn't red screen.
Yeah.
And Aspire needs to be a multi-time event.
Yeah.
It should be twice a year, right? You should have an East Coast Aspire and a West Coast Aspire. Don't make your partner who lives over here in Georgia fly all the way that way. And don't let someone in Seattle have to fly all the way to Boston or whatever. Have two of them and be able to do these things, right? But that's pie in the sky.
Probably an Inspire Road Show.
Inspire Road Show would be great.
You just hit my creative noodle. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. Write that down.
Right down.
So as we get ready to close the show out a little bit, we want to make sure we're cognizant of time. You guys are hyper focused on just a security aspect, which is why we had on the show. But you guys have other talents. Tell us about some of the other good things you guys do at Forsyte, because you're not solely a security company. You guys are very versed in identity and a lot of other things. What's the other superpower you like to go ahead and tell everybody else about?
I mean, so I will say, that is certainly true and has been true for the entire decade that we've been in existence. But really, our focus moving forward is security and compliance through and through, security, compliance, and identity through and through. That being said, to your point, Ed, we do have a long history of performing. We've probably migrated, I think the number is, several million mailboxes over the course of our existence, from Google Workspace to Microsoft 365, from Exchange on-prem to Exchange online, you name it, tenant consolidations. We've done a lot of that, done a lot of AVD. You mentioned a strong background in identity from Chris. By my money, he's the best MIM custom developer in the country, or at least very close to it. So we do a lot of that work as well. Integrating, HR management systems with Active Directory, all that sort of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, if listeners can take one thing away from that, what Forsyte does, it's Guardian 365. It's 24/7 SOC services. That's really, our quote unquote flagship offering as of today. But to your point, we do have some other skills hiding in the back pocket.
Yeah, and those skills augment the security skills.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
I came from that messaging background. I was a Exchange 2003, 7, 10, 16, BPOS, Exchange Online. And if you message a guy, you know AD. You cannot know AD because you got these mismatched attributes, people coming in with crazy UPNs, short name domains. Like, what are you doing? Right. And so you get to know AD really, really good.
Yep. And I think, a advantage for our customers with our history is that all of our engineers have that very conscious connection between security and the business side of things, which I think, if you think about the business without security, really bad. If you think about security without the business, potentially even worse, honestly. And so we really take care with our engineers that if we're talking about conditional access, you don't have to tell us how it's going to affect the business. We would love you to, but we already have an idea of, what changing a session control is going to do to your users, or what changing a specific setting in an anti-phishing policy is going to have impact in terms of mail flow. And so there's really a more seamless connection between how the security tools that we're putting into place are going to impact the business than I think what you may get with some other partners that have a more narrow current focus and a more narrow historical focus as well.
Well, I think that also kind of speaks to, and just brief, talked to another partner this week, and they were so excited. It's almost like I think they even had a party that they were selected by Microsoft to be part of this Copilot for Security program, EAP stuff, right? But that really speaks something also to your partnership and your company, because you're a trusted partner. Somebody reached out to you and said, hey, you guys, you need to be part of this, because obviously Microsoft trusts your partnership and trusts your business.
Yeah, they're part of MSI, and they do all the right things, and they're definitely there. As we get to the 2 minutes left or 1 minute left, let me ask you two super important questions before you go. This is going to make or break the. What is your favorite Defender product? In the Defender, the M365 Defender stack. What's your favorite product?
I go back and forth between what I know is yours, Ed, MDCA, MCAS, and I love Defender for Endpoint. And when I say Defender for Endpoint, I mean Defender for Endpoint itself, and then also all the stuff you can do with endpoint protection and Intune that kind of interplays with it. I just find that so interesting. It's so fun to play with, and there's always something new. I love looking at the secure score recommendations every month and seeing what's new in Defender for Endpoint. There's so much there. So I think I waffle between those two depending on the day.
Yeah, I waffle between, MDCA and MDI. MDI was, somebody said it. I think it was the CTO from Critical Start, and I love that. I actually, one of the things I wrote down, MDI will save your hash.
Yeah, that's
save your hash.
That's a bumper sticker, I think, that needs to be made.
MDI will save your hash. I think I'm gonna make that and put it on my thing. Second question. Actually, I just had a senior moment. What was the second question I was going to have? The favorite thing?
Something about Guns N' Roses.
No, I can't remember. There you go. It must not have been that relevant then.
I know. I was thinking about getting my guitar for a jingle before when you guys were talking before the intro.
You should have did that. We got
I don't think it would have been enjoyable for anybody.
Just strum a couple chords and Ed will follow along with some lyrics.
Yeah, we'll make some jingles, right? Well, sir, I really appreciate you coming on. This thing's like family talking, right? Especially from that. I have a deep history with Forsyte. I have nothing but the best wishes for you guys to succeed. I'll reach out to Chris and Chuck on my own. I've been a terrible colleague / friend. It's on me to see how they're doing.
We all get it. Things get busy, especially in this post-pandemic 24/7 IT world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Any closing remarks you want to say to our listeners, supporters, to your competitors out there?
Competitors.
I think just to everyone, if you want to have a conversation about security, whether you're education, SLG, commercial, whoever it is, reach out. We're always happy to have a conversation. Maybe it'll turn into a partnership that'll last a long time, or maybe it'll just be a quick little bit of help on a certain product. That's what we're here for. So that's why we exist, and we hope to hear from you soon.
And for your competitors, come at me, bro.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, we're the vicious beast gang.
I haven't been running as much as I used to, so putting some weight on certainly happening.
Brother, right there with you. I'm trying to get the discipline up to go do something right now, but it's a little late.
Yep. Yep,
I've had
similar
a
to
red
Brody,
cup already.
I've got some baby time coming up, so I'm not sure how
Oh,
much running is going to be happening here shortly.
Well,
you got to get
congrats.
you.
Is that a
You got
congrats? Then?
you got to get you a
It is,
3-wheeler.
yeah.
You got to start
It's
running with a 3-wheeler.
mine's coming in August, so not quite as soon as Brody's, but still imminent.
All right. Well, congratulations, sir. Everyone, thanks for coming on to the show. I do believe we have one more partner coming up on Monday, April 29th. As we do that, that will conclude our partner month. We're very happy to have security risk advisors to come on and talk about their security offering. But we still like to say thank you to all the partners that come on. Once again, thank you for coming on and representing Forsyte IT Solutions. Check them out. If you're in education and you're not using them, you're wrong. Don't be wrong, be right. And on that, we'll call it a night. Peace.